links. As far as I know, it is still bugged. But hopefully we don't run into too many issues and are able to rank up relatively easily. Game number 1, up against Roa. So this could be either Hammer Crush Duel or the much more powerful Royal Rebel deck. I think we should assume it is aggro though, because that is the overall more popular deck, especially in low ladder. So we're gonna start off with a Bicorn and Gold Rush, bringing out 2 bosses. Obviously this does get pretty punished if our opponent is able to drop a Doom Metal. But only one way to find out. And I don't like ending up with a bunch of high level monsters in our hand. So I went for this over just setting the monsters. Unfortunately, they are on the Rebels. Obviously, Invasion is the best one for them to have for us, as it isn't able to do anything. But they are going to bring out 2 bosses, which is fairly concerning. Another Doom Metal enters the board, and we are probably going to be losing this game at this point. 1400 burn plus 3500 and a back row is pretty threatening for us to deal with. It's our move, and Shield and Sword actually doesn't really work against the Doom Metal. We are able to unbrick a little bit by using Ultimate Bond, but even this is only going to get us 1 boss onto the board. We send away Tough Striker, and then we're gonna bring in Aim Eagle and Avant Wolf to summon a large Barrel Dragon. And then if we are lucky, Barrel Dragon will be able to hit the Doom Metal for us. So let's go ahead and try to pop it. We are successful, meaning Barrage of Steel then is able to deal with the face down. But it was a bluff. We bring in our own Barrel Dragon, but the only way we win this game is if they open, or if they draw into no boss monsters. So it is going to be pretty difficult. Shadowbuyer activating the effect, and that is a terrible sign. One moment. Alright, so with Shadowbuyer on the board and in attack mode, I am definitely expecting them to bring in a new boss monster and finish the game. Any of them are good enough except for Invasion. Welcome, Carrot. I am doing pretty well. Just not in the actual game. I could have played a little bit more conservatively here. But they did also draw a pretty good opening hand. And here is the 3rd Doom Metal. Not much I could do at this point. But also, I do think this is a pretty rare matchup. So I'm not super concerned about losing to it, as the latter is almost certainly going to be playing a lot more Heartbeat, etc., where I would have a much easier time. What have you been up to, Carrot? I hope things have been going well for you as well. Alright, and looks like the next game might be a mirror match. Alright, and they are starting with a set 4. But we ran right into an Essel, which is a great start. Adam asks if Noodles are a bad deck now. And I think it is a little bit more difficult to answer than you might think. On the one hand, the deck definitely does lose a lot without being able to use Call of the Earthbound anymore. However, I think the deck is actually still quite capable when queuing into the level 7 decks in the format. The only issue I actually have with the Noodles is that on ladder, you are pretty unlikely to actually run into those decks. Like you can see, we are currently playing against a Magnum Overlord player, and it is really rare for them to have multiple level 7s on the board. So, overall, the Noodle matchup spread is a lot worse than it was in the World Championship qualifiers, where players are actually using good decks. I think the Noodles are basically an anti-meta measure. So, still relatively good at what they do, but now they're a lot worse against the random decks. Whereas beforehand, they were strong enough anyway to kind of just push through everything. And hopefully that made sense. Alright, so we can get rid of a crafter drone and replace it with an Aim-Eagle. Or we can also draw a card first and see what we get. I'll go ahead and activate the Ultimate Bond, revealing Tough Striker. And then we aren't going to be using both Bicorns. So let's get rid of the crafter drone that has already used its effect. Since we actually do need the light monsters in order to use Aim-Eagle's effect. 1 and 2. Special summon out our Mirror Innovator. And then, Crafter Drone, Bicorn, and Bicorn can shuffle away a few of our Aim-Eagles back into the deck, allowing us to summon out the Tough Striker for just 1 tribute. And then finally, we give the Mirror Innovator piercing damage by shuffling away the Barrel Dragon. Enter battle, and this could be a game-winning push. Mystic Dealer reveals a 0 defense monster. And that is game. Welcome, Paco. I am sure we will be doing more Pokemon in the near future. I might go and live stream some of the work on the Heart Gold ROM hack, depending on how I end up feeling. And then, I also am still working on 2 different Pokemon-themed videos, but I've already done all the streaming I need for those. So, I'm not entirely sure what the next few streams will look like. We probably won't be streaming again for at least a few days. I'll obviously try to hit King of Games at some point in the month, but we still have several weeks where we are able to find a time for that. So I'm not really feeling any sort of rush to get it done quickly. And I mean, I definitely haven't been playing through the events, so there's a lot less dueling going on in general. Let's see what we can do here. Essel is obviously a pretty good start. And if we only hit a low-level monster, it'll be good enough to bring in more material for my bosses. Now, the question is going to be whether or not we want to trigger the Mirror Innovator or the bike. I don't think we're able to bring Bicorn in with its effect. So we are just going to do this Ultimate Bond, revealing Barrel Dragon, and shuffling away our and if we get rid of the Mirror Innovator, then we can Emil, bring in the Barrel Dragon, and have a full board. And that sounds pretty aggressive. So let's do that. Wait, but Emil does work. It's Bicorn. Does not work with the Barrel Dragons. But this one is okay. So we bring in a huge Barrel Dragon at 3600 attack. Edit the effect, and if we land it, this is very close to ending the game. We whiff on the effect, but we are still getting in for a pretty big swing. Obviously, we do have no cards in hand. But our monsters, barring the Avant Wolf, do have decent defense stats. So Paco, one of the videos is going to be, on the Gen 2 level curve and mid-game. And the other one is, sort of similar to my other video, except instead of focusing on real life, I'll actually go through the different, cartridge games and try to build what I think are the best teams, either to represent the regions or just for a playthrough. Alright, so we drew into a Gold Rush, but it is not live here, as we do not have 3 attack position monsters on the opponent's board. So I'm gonna get rid of this Bicorn to draw a card. And then I will bring in the Gold Rush anyway. But I can bring it in with an Amigal if I want to. And that does seem worthwhile. So let's go ahead and reveal the Gold Rush, get rid of Crafter Drone, add Amigal, and boost up to 3500. Removing Essel and Amigal from the board. Gold Rush enters the field, and we will then wall up. Gold Rush, I think hitting the lizard actually makes a lot of sense. Welcome, Reaper. I am mostly doing better from the COVID. My nose is definitely still a little bit runny or congested, depending on the time of day. And I do think my voice is still a little, messed up because of the stuff going on with my throat. Other than that, I would say it is a lot better than it was last week. So unfortunately, our opponent finds a Trigger Drago here, and is going to be able to get in for some piercing damage. As long as they don't have a Gazelle in their hand though, I think we will be fine. And even if they do, it's only actually an additional 200 damage. Oh, welcome, Sarah and Nathan. I actually do have a video covering the ban list. Unless you mean the new one that only buffs Blue Eyes. I kind of covered it as a footnote in the Worm box review. The thing is that there isn't really much to talk about. The ban list did not really do anything to address any of the top decks. So I wasn't going to turn that into an 8-minute video talking about nothing. So it's kind of just included in there where I discuss how the new decks are relatively underwhelming and the old decks were not brought down to par. But how are you all doing today? Crimson, Nathan, and Sarah. And that was actually our Gold 1 rank up. Just one more league to go. Yeah, so the ban list was implemented on July 4th. But immediately after the ban list was announced, the next 2 tournaments had a top 4 consisting of at least 3 machine players each. If I'm remembering the numbers correctly. So, very much did nothing. After the box release, we have seen a few topping lists from, Worms, Vulcan, and Buster Blader. But I don't think any of them have actually taken home first. Alright, so our opponent's starting off with a set 3. We do have Essel and Mirror Innovator, which is usually a pretty good sign. Hopefully we draw into a low level, and then mill a high level with the Essel to bring in a double boss board. Unfortunately, we draw a 3rd trap card. So we are relying on this Essel to get us where we need to go. Fortunately, we are going to be able to bring in a Fire Yarrow and tribute it off with the Mirror Innovator. It isn't a super aggressive board, especially as we did not mill any machine monsters. So Mirror Innovator is unable to boost. However, 200 damage still removes a major threat from the board. And we even have 3 trap cards to protect us from anything they want to throw at us. Sister Torero could set us to defense mode, but it is still a bit of a problem for them to actually find multiple monsters with over 1800 attack. Yeah, Paco mentions the first tournament had 4 machines in the top 4. And I'm pretty sure the next one also had a lot of machine representation. Just not quite to the same degree. Alright, and they are setting a 2 back row. They ended up drawing a pretty solid hand. However, unfortunately for them, Widespread Ruin is going to be popping the Flame Cerberus and letting our Mirror Innovator live to see another day. Let's go ahead and bring in Crafter Drone, who is going to be able to ditch this aim eagle. Or the other Crafter Drone. Though I don't think it really matters which one I chose there, as the other is being tributed off for Mirror Innovator. And then Avant Wolf and we can get our Mirror Innovators set up. Obviously, this turns into an issue pretty quickly if they start flipping Combustion Crisis. But if they do not, then we are in a pretty solid position. It seems like both of the face down cards were spells. So we only have to worry about the slot on the right. Reaper is asking if the plants will be top tier. And the answer is absolutely not. Unless they get very major support. They need a lot of work. For a deck to be viable, when a boss monster removes itself from the field at the end of the turn, you need to be doing a lot to make up for it. Otherwise, you are never going to be dealing more damage to the opponent than they are able to deal on the counterattack. Especially when your boss is not even a 2500. Paco. I am curious who was saying the ban list was good. Because like I said, I definitely did not rush to make a video about it because I didn't think it was going to do anything. I did not say that. Lies and slander. I would never support a ban list that is going to harm my beloved Noodle Ninjas. From this, like, the first thing I said is that nothing actually changes about the deck. Meaning Cybers or machines. And welcome, JD. I am doing pretty well. How about you? Our opponent now has no back row to defend themselves. So all we need to do is activate Mirror Innovator, shuffle in a few monsters, and that is more than enough. I will stop clicking buttons and simply swing. Alright, Paco is searching for the receipts. Oh, wait, okay. Paco. There is two different things going on here. The ban list was not good at addressing the meta decks. The ban list was good for putting negate attack to 2. That change in particular is exactly what I want to see out of ban lists. However, I would have liked to see a more significant hit to the skill for machines. And then Cybers probably needed like a Chaos Temptron to be hit to 2 instead of the Attribute. Or something along those lines. So yes, I do think the negate attack limit was a good concept, if that is what you're thinking of. We're gonna go ahead and set 3, leaving our Bicorn for later. If they destroy all 3 of our machine monsters, we are able to use it to bring in the Gold Rush pretty easily. But our opponent could be on machines, Mirror Innovator, 7's Axel Road, Hammer Crush Deal, or one of several other less viable decks. Many of the Yuga archetypes are pretty playable. Unfortunately for us, they are on machine. Definitely the best of the bunch, especially if they land an Essel like that. Alright, and we draw another bicorn. But I'm thinking we would like to lose. I think we would like to use at least one of our Amigos. So we aren't going to be using 2 bicorns. Let's return it into the deck, so it is usable later. Crouch Drone can be summoned, and that is going to trigger the Assault Cannon, hitting the Tough Striker. Then we are able to use Aim Eagle, sending 2 monsters to the graveyard for a 3,500 gold rush. Then Bicorn is up next, and serves as 2 tributes while simultaneously shuffling both of our Amigal back into the deck. And then Tough Striker comes on out. And all I have to do is avoid trap cards. Unfortunately, Danny does appear to have one, but they are not using it, which suggests it might be the buffered slime. We managed to clear out the board and grab 2 of our bosses. Our opponent presumably has 2 additional level monsters in hand. If they had another boss, they probably would have summoned it last turn. So we'll see if they manage to find enough high levels to compete with this board. And Ultimate Bond is getting them an Amigal. They have the Gold Rush, and we actually do have 3 attack position monsters. Probably a bit of a misplay on my end. I'm them to Gold Rush into the Tough Striker that we previously destroyed. The Croucher Drone only really removed a defense position monster from their board, so I did not really need to summon it. However, they are using a Talismanic Seal Array, which means the Tough Striker is no longer in the graveyard. So they are not going to be able to do that any longer. Almond Wolf is coming down, and they are going to be able to clear out my board. But we do still have a life point lead, which is nice. We even draw into another Amigal. And we have an Essel to make this work. Let's go ahead and activate the effect for the immediate Barrel Dragon. See if we are able to destroy the Gold Rush for free. And we land it. Meaning, if we actually manage to connect all these attacks, we would win. However, I am relatively confident they have a buffered slime face down. So this battle is going one more turn. Or I suppose not. Given it was no longer activatable when I attacked directly. I'm now thinking they are running a card like Thunder Spark. Which is very much not relevant when battling just about anyone. No, it must have been the Sword and Shield. It's the only one that makes sense to not use there. Ian is absolutely correct. 2 Amigal is fine. You are recycling it very often. And the limit is only there to prevent opponents from running negate attack, and forcing the deck to use Widespread Ruin instead. Oh, welcome, Danny. Thank you for the game, and for tuning in afterwards. Always nice to see more faces. And our next game is an immediate surrender. I have, no idea what they possibly could have been running. But that does bring us up to Gold 2. The climb has been relatively smooth. We lost our first match against Royal Rebel. But then, I think we've won every duel since then. That was also the first Asana we had seen today. But they were on an archive skill, so I don't know what they were actually running. Next up is Zoo, another Yuga, but Yuga has enough viable decks where I don't know what it is just yet. Like last time, I want to keep the Bicorn in hand, as we're going to be getting multiple machines into the graveyard already. And if we draw into 2 bosses, the Bicorn should be live. A Fire Golem. Makes me think this is going to be 7's Axel Road. And with us just starting with a generic set 3 pass, it could be a problem. However, they are ending on a Lone Torn of the Windweaver. Any boss monster. And we are fine. Barrel Dragon is certainly a good one. Bicorn does not work with it, and neither does Amigal, as they do not have a level 7 on board. However, with a hand like this, we are able to bring in 2 Almond Wolves, 2 incredibly powerful back row, and attempt to destroy the Barrel Dragon for free. Or attempt to destroy the Torna with the Barrel Dragon. And even on a whiff, we have managed to swing on in for 4,000 damage on our very first attacking turn. Backed up by both Buffered Slime, making us invincible, and a Widespread Ruin to destroy their Titan's Magician, or any other boss monster that threatens the Barrel Dragon. Unfortunately for us, they are running Ghost Cyclone, and are able to remove the Widespread Ruin. However, even with the extra draw, I think it should be relatively difficult for our opponent to clear all 3 of these monsters. Or to find lethal here. Talismanic Seal Array is fine. Even a Barrel Dragon at 0 attack, isn't lethal. Alright, so that is 2,700. We're looking for a boss monster and a spell trap removal of our own. Unfortunately, we are not quite able to find it. And Boltercorn is not live, as we control too many other monsters. So I think we are going to set this. And then activate our skill, Ultimate Bond, revealing a Tough Striker. And we will return Essel into the deck. Amigal coming on down. Though I probably should have returned the Boltercorn. So it would have been summonable if we draw it on the next turn. This play does lose to a Recital. But I like it more than leaving more vulnerable monsters on board. Let us see what they activate. Sword and Shield is not going to be enough. The second Tough Striker gets in for game. Even if we didn't use the Amigal, it actually would have been fine, as Tough Striker is 1600 to 7 Magician at 15. So with only 2,000 life points, we would have won the battle and swung in for an additional 2,500 anyway. Paco. I said I was specifically not playing around the recital. If I wanted to, I guess I could have, but it also doesn't matter because 1600 is enough where we are winning on the next time we start landing attacks anyway. They're gonna end with some kind of 1600 monster on board, and 3500 would have been enough to do it. Crafted drone is fine, but ultimately unnecessary, as we already have all of the monsters we need. Mirror Innovator with Piercing coming down, backed up by a Bluff. But if the opponent is running Hammer Crush, it might be good enough to force them to waste a few cards from their hand. Unfortunately, they only set 2 monsters, which makes me think they are going to be having plenty of tributes available to them. But here comes a Dosodon, filtering towards the maximum, who fortunately actually is okay here, as it is only going to be able to attack our 1 monster. We take a little bit of burn, but I don't mind. 3400 means any high level monster gets us to Amigal, which then gets us over the maximum. Unfortunately, none were found. And that is probably game then, unless we are able to draw into one with Crafter Drone. Let us discard Boltricorn, and we find a Mirror Innovator. Barrage of Steel, destroying the face down. And then Amigal and Essel. Now with the Essel to try to find more monsters for us to shuffle in with Mirror Innovator. And then a 3400 Mirror Innovator enters the board. I want Wolf and shuffle back any 3 monsters. And then we are going to be able to battle Wolf and Crafter Drone, swinging in and leaving Almond with just 900 left. Paco, as always, I forgot there was a tournament today. Should Essel be banned? I think Essel is fine, as a limit 3. The only real issues with Essel are Mirror Innovator and Dragias. So if both of those are limit 3, and limit 3 Essel also is not very problematic. While at the same time, still being able to support decks like Thunder, which appreciate the extra milling. Unfortunately, we are once again whiffing on bosses. Not much we can do here, except for draw a Tough Striker again. But we're gonna do something a little bit odd. I'm gonna send back our Crafter Drone, grab the Amigal, and then I was going to summon the Amigal And then, try to bring out 2 2500s rather than buffing the Tough Striker in order to play around, something like a Widespread Ruin. We would have had 2 monsters at over 1,000 above the Faith Bird. And I think we would have had just enough cards to do it. Especially since we had a, Volticorn in hand. Alright, and here comes our next game. A rank up opportunity for gold 3. And we've opened Double Essel, going second. However, we don't have any, boss monsters currently in hand. So our hand could get bricked up a little bit if we don't draw into one. Opponent sets 4. A pretty strong opener. Crafts a drone. Not really what I want to see. I would rather Essel to try to find our high levels. We will pass on the first one and then see what happens with the second. And we actually do manage to find Mirror Innovator himself. Unfortunately, no tribute summon here, but we are going to send back a Surge Bicorn. Giving us access to piercing damage. Our opponent now has a monster in the graveyard and is able to activate a trap card. So it is something along the lines of a Barrier or Thunderspark. But no problem. Let's go ahead and remove the Assault Cannon. And we will see what they do next. Alright, Element Wolf and Amigal are going to be able to bring in a boss capable of clearing our Mirror Innovator. And if they have another, they are still able to use the skills effect to bring out another Amigal. Ace Breaker also could be live, destroying our Mirror Innovator with its effect. However, by doing this, they are not going to be able to bring in another boss, but they are going to be able to clear the board. And unfortunately, we don't have a clean out ready to go. Nor do we draw one. Oh, and welcome Happy Vax and Raiders. How are you all doing? Were you playing over in the tournament or just doing a normal stream? How did it go? I hope you all had a good time. You have joined us on our Gold 3 rank up. However, it is not going very well. As we are staring down an Ace Breaker and a Bicorn. Reset Tournament Zombies and BLS beating Unchained and Sigurd. You know, okay, I didn't even realize it was a speed tournament. As I'm pretty sure there's also a rush tournament going on right now. Zombies and BLS. So it's Unchained in Duelings. That is relatively surprising to me, given they are a very good deck over in the TCG, or at least were a few months ago, the last time I checked. Unchained just released. Okay then. I am not surprised to hear they are doing well. Unfortunately, we have lost the rank up. Give me 1 second. I have an alarm going off. But we are going to be queuing for another game momentarily. sorry for the delay. We are back. And our opponent is immediately going for a Maximum Overlord. Blue piece is in rotation. Gotta make sure we are paying attention to what they have revealed. And also remember, the middle piece is the one that was set. Alright, so unfortunately for us, we don't have any way to get the third monster into the graveyard to trigger the, Bicorn. So, Amigal and Bicorn are going to serve as regular tributes for our Tough Striker. And we're going to bring in Boltricorn and just swing over. 1,000 defense. And as long as we don't hit the opposing Magician's Valkyria, I think Boltricorn should be able to clear most other monsters they are running. Alright, yeah, Happy Racks. I hope you enjoy the rest of the night, and thank you for the raid. Definitely appreciate it. Hopefully I will be able to keep them as entertained as you have. Alright, so we see a Torn the Windweaver and a 7's Road Magician flipping up, ready to destroy my board. And they, for some reason, choose to bring in the blue piece. And they choose to surrender after misclicking. Torn the Windweaver, swinging into a 1700 attack weight monster, is a terrible mistake. Unless they were trying to set up for their own Magnum Overlord. But it was not the case. So we will take a free win where we can get them. And move on to what is hopefully another rank up opportunity. I think before Gold 5 and King of Games, usually if you win enough in a series, you don't need the full 3 before the rank up. So it doesn't reset your progress to 0. It gives you another chance. As you can see, we lost one, won one, and now we are ranking up with a potential 2-win streak rather than 3. Alright, and our opponent, once again, on Asana, but using an archive skill. It seems players are already tired of using the intended decks like worms. So we have a Tough Striker. But we are kind of blindly swinging with our barrage. Looks like our opponent is actually on Noodles, which is a little bit unexpected to be sure. After the nerfs, players are probably going to be reverting back to these builds with cards like Roastery. Going for a little bit more of an OTK strategy rather than walling up with a bunch of traps. As you can see, even though we attacked 2 different monsters, there was no trigger for a negate attack, Combustion Crisis, or even Recital. So we will see what they bring in next. Either one of their boss monsters is going to be able to help them clear this board, as it alone is going to be strong enough for the Tough Striker. And then Spice will be able to boost Fire Yarrow. As there are plenty of normal monsters in the grave. And this is going to be a pretty significant hit, especially if they have any more Roasteries face down, which they do. The downside of not running into trap cards when you attack is that the opponent is then going to be flipping some pretty powerful spells on our turn. So, as you can see, we're already down to 1900, but a Shield and Sword could help out. We're going to start with Boltricorn, as Boltricorn is able to turn off that back row. Then, I can Amigal But I also want to use our shield and sword for sure to get in for much more damage. I could switch out the sword and shield for another aim eagle, but I actually do want the protection from another swing later on. Both noodle bosses are at 0 defense, so I need to protect this tough striker in order to have a proper chance to win the game. We'll swing in over the boss and see if they are able to put out a big enough board. Remember, they are going to need either a spice that is able to boost up their other monsters to the point where my trap doesn't matter, or they're going to need to draw into 2 copies of extra spice to burn me down. Let's see how big does this noodle become. Though I am thinking about it, and if my tough striker goes down to 1600, that isn't going to be enough to KO the extra spice or to KO the Asana through the damage. And then that fire yarrow is definitely going to be way over 1600. So any other normal summon should probably finish the game here. Unfortunately for us, we see them add back a stock. And Noodle Art Reboot is taking a win, post-nerf, with relatively no problems. And to make matters worse, here comes an extra spice. However, is that enough? They may have thrown away a chance to win here. I'm adding back the shield and sword. I'm dealing 300 damage. And they are only swinging in for 1600. Whereas, had they kept the 2 normal monsters on the board, I would have absolutely lost that game. Unfortunately, we draw 3 high-level monsters and widespread ruin, leaving us completely unable to play the game. Shield and sword is not enough. Without another level monster, we are not able to bring in anything. So all we are able to do is surrender and go to the next one. All we needed was a single low-level monster, and that game could have been ours. But sometimes it is not in the cards. Fortunately, it looks like we do win the die roll for our next game. I think we do want to keep our Mirror Innovator in hand for later. However, we could be fighting a Harpy player right now, where the Mirror Innovator in attack mode would be somewhat useful to minimize potential damage from a Hysteric Force flip. However, I don't think we are going to go for that. We're just going to see what they do. And they do absolutely nothing, which is a great sign for us. Let's go ahead and tribute summon out the one and only Steel Mech Lord Mirror Innovator. And then, to top it off, we have another boss monster in the Ultimate Gold Rush Flag Mech. And Almond Wolf to finish up the field, and another defense, and another back row. And all of this with Aim Eagle back into the deck for a piercing Mirror Innovator. As I suspected, our opponent is indeed on the Harpy deck. But we are doing just fine. Also, I will say, not using my Barrage of Steel was a misplay. I just completely forgot I had it here. But it turns out the face down wasn't a trap card. So it might end up working out for the better. As now, we are going to have this card, if they set a new back row. And we always want to be aiming for the negate attack if we can. We see the Harvey Lady Sisters and a Trick Pigeon. However, Trick Pigeon is not able to retrieve anything. But it doesn't need to, as they are able to summon out another copy of the middle piece. And with that, they are going to be able to bring in two pretty powerful monsters. Harvey Lady Sisters at 3100 and 2600 are more than enough to clear out my two boss monsters. Unfortunately for them, this should be game with any reasonable draw. Unfortunately, this is not a very reasonable draw. However, we will still make the most of it. Shield and Sword reduces both of their boss monsters down to 0. And then we are able to bring in a Mirror Innovator, edit the effect, and go up as much as possible, putting us at 4100. But then, all we need is a 700 attack weight monster. But instead, we have drawn 3 back row, giving the opponent one more turn to try to find something to save them. While they make their move, I am going to be right back, as I do need to blow my nose. I am back, and they are swinging at me with a Harpy Lady. I'll go ahead and hit them with Widespread Ruin. And now, there is an open field. All we need to do is summon some monsters and attack. We destroy the buffered slime, but they could still have a negate attack. So unfortunately, we aren't able to just go in and swing. We need to play it properly. However, our opponent has chosen to close the game, and we will take those wins. To be clear, since they have back row, I was not BMing. It was necessary to play it out in case they did have an answer. I'll go ahead and send Yui the Nice, and we'll go ahead and see if we're able to get a third shot to rank up. I'm not sure if we do or not, though. After the second loss, I don't know if it maintains the 2-win streak being good enough. And we are up against the one and only Rob Capone. Though I suppose there could be more of them. Either way, it is another rank up. And they are going first, which seems like a good start for them. However, we did draw the one and only Alt Art Glossy Essel. And if we manage to draw a good enough card off the top of the deck and with our mills, we will be set. Though they are also summoning out a turn 1 Blue Eyes. And that is pretty dangerous. would like to see what we get with the Essel first. Before we go, for the Aim Eagle, there is a very small risk that we are going to be able to mill both Aim Eagles and then not be able to use Tough Striker, or the skill to summon the Tough Striker. However, my opponent immediately disconnects, and we are rank 3. Only 3 more ranks to go. Though I do think if we get to gold 5, we would probably stop the stream a little bit early there. Unfortunately, Paco, we do not get to see what the Essel would have milled. And we are fighting a nail on their rank up match. We just ranked up ourselves, so I wouldn't mind throwing them a disconnect or automatic concede so they can rank up as well. And I mean, if we don't draw particularly well, I'll just give it to them. No need to maintain a win streak. So hopefully they will appreciate it the same way I appreciated getting a few free disconnects myself. And here comes another nail to punish me for conceding. And they are also getting ready to rank up. So I'll go ahead and give it to them. At a rank breakpoint like this, there's no risk of ranking down, and the win streak does not matter. So we'll go in for a third game and see how it goes. Alright, and next up is a Roa. And that is a player I probably don't actually want to fight against, as Royal Rebels is a pretty, a pretty murky matchup. One I have not done a lot of practice against, but my opponent brings in an immediate heavy metal. And we have drawn no bosses. So I'll go ahead and throw in crafted drones. See what we are able to find. Ornament Bond, revealing a Tough Striker, and putting the crafted drone back in the deck. That is not the one I intended it to send back. I want to send back the drone on the board, so I would be able to set the other one. But unfortunately, I clicked the wrong button. So instead, we are bringing in Tough Striker and trying to go in for the 2,000 damage. We do manage to hit a copy of the barrier, but barriers are not particularly threatening trap cards, and they haven't been for 6 months. We see a bit of a Kerbot engine going online, which is a bit of a surprise, as I don't think Death Doom Requiem really runs them. And here is why. They are actually on Hell Tuning Invasion instead. So now, I have 2 level 4 monsters, and Heavy Metal is going to be able to destroy whatever it wants. But due to this restriction on the skill, they aren't able to buff the Heavy Metal too high. So they simply swing in for 1,000. Our move, and we have a bit of an awkward situation, but it could be good enough. let's use Barrage of Steel on both of the new face down cards, making sure no negative attack is able to stop us. Then, Ultimate Flag Beast, Aim Eagle, will send both of my monsters to the graveyard for a Mirror Innovator at 3,400. And we are then able to shuffle back 3 monsters to boost it even higher. Mirror Innovator swings in for a clean 2,000 damage. And we pass it over. What do I think of Hyper Engine Vast Vulcan? It is bad. I know Paco is in the chat and is a Vulcan believer. Or, at the minimum, they used to be. However, Vulcan is just not really able to compete with the other maximum decks. Over in the Physical Rush Duel products, Vulcan has always been considered one of the worst ones. And I don't think the skill really is enough to make up for it. I do think Vulcan gets a little bit of a bonus from being in a format with only 6,000 life. However, that isn't quite enough to turn it into a good card. Paco, our opponent, is bricking on 2 high-level monsters, so they did what they could to clear the board. I think using the Sword and Shield might have been a little bit unnecessary when the Seal Array was enough on its own. But that's good enough for us. Alright, let's see. Not a good max, but it's a good generic maximum, so the Beast Carrier deck is able to use it. Oh, so basically, is it that Vulcan is low enough attack that it's able to be run in other skills? Though I guess the Beastiers don't actually have their own restriction at all yet. It's also interesting because Vulcan is a warrior. So when I think of Beast Gears, I think of the Field Spell, which isn't in the game yet, which debuffs spellcasters, dragons, and the third one's actually fairies. But I sometimes get it confused with warriors because those are the 3 big types in Yu-Gi-Oh! This is a pretty awkward start, but I think something the Mirror Innovator does make sense, as it's going to force them to have a boss monster of their own. I don't want them summoning 3 random low levels and I'm getting in for a bunch of damage. It would be nice if one of these 2 was a trap to help protect us. But I think this is the best we can do. Unfortunately, they are on Blue Eyes. So, Mirror Innovator is definitely going down. Maybe I shouldn't have summoned it after all. Have a man serving as 2 tributes. Oh, and they actually have the full Blue Eyes as well. So we are going to be taking a big 3,000 damage, or maybe we aren't, as they are not able to find another 2 low-level monsters, instead ending on a lone Blue Eyes. So again, I guess a case where the Mirror Innovator would have been a little bit better in our hand. But this does work out okay. Bulgercorn is able to shut down their back row. And then we're able to bring in the Assault Cannon and the Aim Eagle. Assault Cannon weakens the blue eyes. And then Amigal lets us bring in a big Mirror Innovator. And on top of that, we did mill a Gold Rush with Assault Cannon's effect. So it's able to shuffle back 2 high-level monsters and an Amigal to gain as much attack as possible. And after that, we are going to enter the battle phase. We already know the final card in their hand should be a Bright Dragon. With a Blue Eyes in the graveyard, drawing into a Soul Drake would be enough to potentially get them to a double boss board that then also removes my Mirror Innovator for free, with the effect of the Bright Dragon. Seahorse Carrot is coming down, but I don't think we have seen any Aquas. But we do see the first piece of the combo. Did they draw all 4 low levels? They did not. We see a Blue Eyes White Dragon swinging in. So, show me a boss monster, and the game is done. I activate Ultimate Bond, and I reveal the Tough Striker. Then we return Crafted Drone into the deck for an Amigal. This now means Bulgercorn is our only monster, and the back row is shut down once more. Amigal is up next, and here comes the one and only Mirror Innovator once again. Activate the effect of Mirror Innovator, and we shuffle in a bunch of monsters, and that is 1,600 on board. No need to play any other cards. That is game. Oh, and welcome, Penguin. Happy to have you around once more. Sorry I haven't been able to stream very much lately. Let's see. John is saying, yeah, Beast Gear has been getting, new options that do work in the deck. I am wondering what your list actually looks like. I know some people were running it initially over in a Magician Shuffle deck. But then Magician Shuffle kind of got co-opted by Mirror Innovator. But I'm not sure, like, what is the best skill for the Beast Gears? Maybe one of the ones that lets you kind of manipulate position, if they are compatible with them. Alright, so we are up first, and it is another rank up. And I want to keep the Bulgercorn around, as we already have 3 machines ready to go to the graveyard, and a tribute monster. So Forest, I believe, is in the first box. But it is hard to say whether or not the first box is worth going into anymore. We're probably gonna get a Psychic Support pack, or sorry, an Aqua Support pack soon. That could reprint the Dianketo. And then, Dragius and Sunstone Magician have both been reprinted. So it is a bit of an awkward, ask to go into a main box when the mini boxes are so much more gem efficient. I'm not sure if the, if Force has been reprinted anywhere though. So it could be tough to get if it's only a card in the biggest box in the game. I'm going to open with a lone Chaos Femtron. But they shouldn't have been able to brick, as even if they had high-level monsters, they'd be able to use their Maximum Magnavox skill to get them out. I suppose they simply forgot to do so. The Kissy Star is going to be bringing out an Attitude Hydron, and unfortunately, our Sword and Shield is not going to be enough here, as Attitude Hydron has gained 400 attack. However, that is still fine. They are looking relatively low here. Though, unfortunately for us, we were not able to find a boss monster. So, once again, we are just going to be sitting around for a little bit. Their deck doesn't really have a lot in the way of piercing damage, unless they summon the maximum. So, let's just set and pass. If we're able to find a shield and sword, we can always change the Attitude Hydron to 0, and then win the game that way. Unfortunately, they are able to find the sword and shield and destroy it. But it does mean we managed to keep Barrage of Steel for later. Femtron finds a Reset Runner, but loses them a Widespread Ruin. So that is one major card we no longer need to worry about. And Buried Slime should be the only other relevant trap card that can go in their deck. Hydron, not looking all that powerful. Lots of spell and traps in the graveyard, preventing it from getting up to the point where they're able to draw an extra card. We see a Secret State Soul coming out, which could burn, but does not, as they have no other monsters around. So we actually even get to keep the Crafter Drone if we feel like using it. I think we do want to use Barrage of Steel though, and Slime is down. All we need to do is debuff the opponent as much as possible. But we would need 3 Hello Monsters to do that properly. I'm gonna go ahead and send the Avant Wolf to the grave and see what we draw. The thought process is Essel gives us an opportunity to try to put more Hello Monsters in the graveyard. But we don't find one. But then at that point, I'm gonna just bring in the Mirror Innovator like normal. And edit the effect and cut our losses instead of trying to high roll into 2 additional bosses. I will put back the Boltercorn for later. And I will set 2 more monsters and leave the other one in hand. Obviously, the Attitude Hydron is the biggest threat, so we swing into that. But I don't think there was any way we were getting another 900 unless we went with the other Essel and managed to find 2 relatively high-level monsters. We had some level 4s, but even those would have only been enough to bring them down to 500. Alright, they are revealing 2 monsters for the 600 burn. But with 2 defense mode monsters on our board, I do feel relatively safe here. They don't have Buffered Slime or Widespread Ruin, so as long as we survive the turn and bring in a new boss on the next one, the game should be ours. Basically, anything we summon is going to have at least 1,000 more attack than their own bosses. And with the Mirror Innovator, we make sure we have plenty of Amigal to go around. and Reset Runner, milling a Connector Dog, presumably to set up their next Attitude Hydron. Max from Ragnarok makes it seem like they are only going to be bringing in one boss this turn. We know they do have a piece of Yggdrago in hand, and also a Belsat Gomani. Oh, but they choose to tribute summon it normally. Perhaps their final card is a 1500 beater. And they are just looking for a way. No. Oh, they have the Talismanic Seal Ray. And that is actually going to be enough to lethal us. Unfortunately, Mirror Innovator is going down to just 200. So, Legacy Star is going to take it here. I guess I could have kept up the defenses until we got a guaranteed win with an Amigal play. So, that is definitely my fault for not waiting until we were able to get a little bit more damage with it. Either way, I think they played relatively well, so congratulations to them for being able to take us down. Alright, and it looks like we are up against another nail for our next battle. Oh, and they are on a rank up. We are not, but we should be on the 2-game path, where if we're able to win this one, the one afterwards is a rank up. And they're starting off with 3 back row. A relatively rare sight for sure. We can craft a drone to try to find more low levels, but I am pretty inclined to keep our Mirror Innovator and just try to swing for 2500. Unfortunately, with 3 back row, a widespread ruin is pretty likely here. So we will see what they do. They actually flip over a slime, which is only saving them 500 damage, but it does put a Chaos Centron into the graveyard to trigger their future Chaos Centrons or other relevant cards. I do think they probably were sitting on 2 maximum pieces. So we'll see if they're able to bring out anything relevant here. They did discard a head when they used to the Doomed, so it's also possible they were just bringing on 2 high levels. We have our own buffered slime, but we definitely aren't using it here. We already have a Mirror Innovator in hand, and we draw into an Amigal, which is great. We're gonna bring in Avant Wolf, and then activate Ultimate Bond. Let's reveal Tough Striker, but then send it right back into the deck to grab a second Amigal. This gives us a little bit more field presence here by sending the 2 Amigals into the graveyard for Mirror Innovator. And then we still don't have to worry about not being able to use our skill, as Mirror Innovator itself shuffles both of them away. And this also lets us keep Sword and Shield against a deck filled with 0 defense bosses. Alright, looks like Tops does have another face down, but it also looks like they are running the barrier, which isn't going to be able to do much of anything. So they are now all the way down to 700 life. And we are protected by both Sword and Shield and Buffered Slime. Unfortunately for us, if they do maximum summon, we are in a ton of danger. But if they do not, the game is going to end in our favor very quickly. Looks like they did not manage to find all 3 pieces of Exodia. So they give us a concession. And that means we are on another chance to rank up to Gold 4. Let us see what we are going to be fighting next. And I am pretty sure Oso is a player we have already battled against earlier in the stream. We are on a rank up. But while the name seems familiar, these card sleeves and mat do not. So I am possibly being mistaken here. In any case, I think I would like to keep the Boltricorn. As it is our best shot of establishing a 2-boss board in the future. Our opponent sets 4, which is a good sign. We're gonna go ahead and bring in Mirror Innovator here for sure. And then, I'm gonna add some of the Amigal and then put it back. Oh, they actually just go ahead and concede. Their face down card must not have been a very good answer to our piercing. And that puts us up to Gold 4. We definitely aren't doing anything crazy. We don't have a 100% win rate, but the deck is performing completely fine. It is very difficult to tell the deck has been hit at all. I would say having access to negative attack could have won us one of the games we lost against the Noodle player. But other than that, I don't think it has made an impact. And if anything, Widespread Booming clearing out some of their monsters has made some of these games even easier. Unfortunately for us, we are bricked on 2 Mirror Innovators here. And this is another situation where owning a negative attack would be useful. As a method of protecting our tribute fodder. Our opponent brings in a Dragonite. And we will have to wait and see what else they pull out of their sleeve. As this is definitely a very awkward board to end on. I would definitely be expecting them to do something here. And we do see a tribute summon of Bright Dragon. So, do they have a 4th monster? They do not. And that means our life points remain completely safe for this turn. And that is going to be enough for us to start turning the game around. Let's activate Barrage of Steel, destroying their Heavenly Bliss. And then we will activate Essel to put more monsters into the graveyard that we are able to shuffle back with Mirror Innovator. Activate the effect, and all 3 of them go into the deck, allowing us to swing for as much damage as possible. Now, it is worth noting, there is an argument to not grab this Gold Rush, as you would then have a chance of drawing it and breaking on 3 high-level monsters. However, Gold Rush would allow us to convert a Mirror Innovator into an Amigal. So it is just the same as drawing a low level, as long as it is drawn alongside other low level monsters and not another 2500. Alright, so we see Kaiba-Man bring in the Legendary Dragon, which is a little bit concerning, seeing them get it relatively early on. However, they are using Legend Draw rather than the search skill, so it is fine. Alright, we draw 2 low-level monsters, which is enough, especially as one of them is a crafter drone, meaning we're able to get rid of this 3rd Mirror Innovator that has been stuck in our hand. Barrage of Steel, activating a 2nd time to destroy return. A funny tech that does work against some decks, but with the falling out of the Aqua Engine, I probably wouldn't recommend actually running the card. We could go for bigger damage if we swing into the defense position monster, but instead, Mirror Innovator is going to shuffle away these monsters and clear out the one and only Blue Eyes White Dragon. Oh, welcome. I hope you enjoy your work, and I appreciate coming back to watch the VOD later. Thanks for dropping by and saying hello. Good to see you again. And we'll catch up a little bit more another time. Alright, so we see Dromax dropping a Dragon's Inferno, destroying our Shield and Sword. Shield and Sword is a card that probably doesn't get a ton of value against the high defense Blue Eyes White Dragon and Bright Dragon. But if they do choose to end on a card like Twin Edge Dragon, it could have been a shot for victory, as a 0 defense monster is perfect for our 3500 tough strikers to take down. Alright, we're seeing a Talismanic Seal Ray, and we know Blue Eyes is in their hand. So we are going to be taking a pretty significant amount of damage here. 2,000 puts us at 3,400. And then it all comes down to what their other card in hand is. I guess we'd rather see a... Well, I guess we want it to be another high-level monster they aren't able to summon. And it seems that could be the case. Do we have an opportunity to win the game here? If we go and activate Ultimate Bond, we are able to show Tough Striker, and then switch out Shield and Sword for an Ameagle. Ameagle and Boltricorn turn in to a 3,500 attack point Tough Striker. And that leaves our opponent with 3,000 life. Then, by summoning out 2 Avant Wolf, we are able to swing in for exactly lethal damage. And we managed to take down Dromax and their Blue Eyes White Dragon. No matter how many times the Blue Eyes came back, without other monsters to support it, it wasn't able to stick around or pose much of a threat at all. So let's move on to the next game and see what we're up against now that we're in Gold 4. And it is a Yuga. So far, we've seen a pretty even split of Magnum Overlord and Machine, with the occasional 7's Axel Road. Let's find out what Matthew the Crazy is bringing to the table. Notably, we do have a pretty weak start. And it turns out they are on overload. So we'll see how it goes. Mystic Dealer, filtering out a Light Sorcerer of Sanctity. And we see a Tornado Windweaver as well. 1, 2 back row, and a blue piece back on top. Without any high-level monsters. We are unfortunately forced to set 3 into a Tornado Windweaver. We could have swung in for 200 over the Mystic Dealer, but then we would just have 2 monsters being exposed rather than just the 1. So, I don't think that would be the right play. Alright, we see the headpiece is also revealed now. And 7-Zone Magician is showing up. Dealer is going to help them filter towards the big green piece. Answer to the Doomed represents a pretty big push here. Unfortunately, I think we might need to pop the Buffered Slime early. As this... Oh, and I missed my shot. My toggle was off. So I am now not doing that. And I'm down to 2200. A Magnum Overlord summon is pretty devastating. We'll definitely go for the Shield and Sword here. And then a couple of Essel in an attempt to load our graveyard. Let's bring in Avant Wolf, and that allows Barrage of Steel to hit a Recital. Keep it off 2 monsters, and finally, Mirror Innovator activates its effect, shuffling away several monsters and buffing itself up. Enter the battle phase. We will swing. Oh, welcome Quantum. Thank you for the raid. How did the tournament go? And what decks ended up being in the top 4? I'm definitely pretty interested in knowing what has been happening. Manarchist, we are on machines. You know, here on this channel, we like to represent the underdog decks. You know, the ones that are really struggling to get good results. And after the devastating July 4th ban list, Machines had one of their most important cards, Aim Eagle, limited it to 2. You know, completely just non-viable these days. But I'm going to do my best to persevere, even though, as you can see very clearly, there's just no way a deck like Machines could ever compete against something like Magnum Overlord, or Psychics even. But we trudge on. Hoping one day that maybe Mirror Innovator may be a good card. Quantum says Cyberse, Thunder, Machine, and Rebel. That is a pretty diverse top 4. But also all of the decks that we would expect to see. Thunder becomes a little bit more relevant when 2 of the best 3 decks are Cyberse and Rebels, both featuring a ton of low defense monsters. I will keep the Bicorn in hand and pass it over to presumably another Mirror Innovator player. Oh, they are on a Piercing Samurai. And I now know I have no idea what they're playing. Oh, and it looks like Vulcan, which does make sense with the Warriors. Well, you see Paco, just because Thunder is a tech doesn't mean it is a good one. Alright, we have 3 in the grave. So we should be able to buy corn. And we also have 2 barrage. Though Battle Slash is not a super relevant card here. I'm gonna filter the buy corn and see if we find anything better. Essel is better. Though it is just kind of going into defense mode. Bicorn triggers and shuffles away 3 monsters. Though I could have also just summoned the Mirror Innovator like normal. Since the Crafter Drone doesn't actually get us anywhere. But in any case, Mirror Innovator up to 3100 and we'll beat over the Piercing card. Torero is fine, as there are 2 of them, and I'm going to be able to do it anyway. Sorry to hear the Thunder player was throwing. Maybe next time they'll be able to make the finals. Hopefully it was still good entertainment or content. Other times it can be more entertaining to watch people do gaming poorly or suboptimally. I mean, if watching bad players wasn't fun, I wouldn't have any viewers myself. Alright, so our opponent has 3 attack position monsters, but we don't have any vanillas to capitalize on this from. But we can try to Essel to get one in there. But instead, we mill Ameagle and Slime, 2 of our very best monsters. Let's go ahead and Barrage. At least we're able to remove the Recital. I'll pop down a Bicorn, but we don't have enough monsters in the graveyard to do it properly. So we are simply going to activate Mirror Innovator and shuffle everything back. Get in for the damage we can. 1600 is not a very relevant number. So let us battle and just clear out the 2 Toreros. This is going to prevent them from clearing our board with a 1900 attack point maximum piece. Obviously the full maximum summon is still a bit of a problem, as Sword and Shield is not able to do anything here. So we take a ton of burn damage and more. However, if we draw a boss monster, we are okay. To Crafter Drone. Should guarantee a win, maybe. As I'm pretty sure we are now able to just kind of beat over this. If we gain at least 1,000 attack, we are fine. So let's tribute off the Gold Rush to make sure we have enough going on. Mirror Innovator, shuffling away as many levels as possible. And as you can see, that is going to do it. No need to even activate Assault Cannon or attack with them. So Manarchus, what did you end up bringing? Were you the Psychic player? That they were saying almost topped. Did they say top 4? So I'm assuming that means there was a Psychic in top 8. What did they end up losing to? Oh, congrats to Ari for the top 8. I'm imagining. Unless you mean almost hitting top 8 is just entering the tournament. But I don't think that was the case. And we are up second. I can't really tell what those sleeves are. But I can tell, my hand is not that good. But there's a chance their hand is going to be even worse. If those are low defense monsters, we have a shot to get in for some damage. Bicorn is down, and a dealer is down as well, so we will take the 1500. But what is their hand? If they had a third of the level, they probably should have set it. If they had a 3 high level hand, they would have Tribute 1. Oh, and Cyberse is the deck you said won. So I guess it was just their lucky day. Winning a tournament definitely does require drawing well. And speaking of drawing well, we are seeing the turn to Magnum Overlord, ready to inflict much damage. And here is where we sit, looking at a widespread ruin, wishing we were still able to run negate attack, though they even draw the Barrage of Steel, preventing us from activating our trap card even if we wanted to. We get 1 turn to out this. Magnum is at 3,500, but that is okay. We activate our skill, Ultimate Bond, to find an Amigal. And we have 4 low levels available to us. So I can use Barrage of Steel here. Putting it back into the deck for an Amigal. And then I can bring in Crafter Drone. Wait, no. How do I want to do this? If I Amigal now, then I bring in a Boltercorn, and then I'm kind of stuck with an extra monster. If I summon the Crafter Drone, I can tribute them both off. I'm going to activate Drone. Oh, a third monster. Not sure that helped me. I would like, oh, maybe I should have used the Crafter Drone to remove a high level. But that doesn't really sound right either. We are going to special summon the one and only Mirror, and wait, Gold Rush is 3,500, which is only enough to tie. I mean, we can theoretically Gold Rush to get an Avant Wolf back, but that doesn't seem super useful either. Bicorn can be summoned, and then I definitely messed up on ending with a full board here. I can shuffle 3 away, and that is fine. And I don't really want any of these on the board since it would just be an instant loss to a 7-zone Magician. So let's wait. Do I get more levels if I shuffle 3, 6, 8? So right now, Mirror Innovator is able to get 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 levels. But if I were to Boltercorn, remove these 3, then bring in the Gold Rush, and then tribute the Gold Rush and the Crafter Drone. Then it'd be gaining 11, 12, 13, 14 levels. But that's still not lethal. But it is more damage, for sure. So I want to bring in the Tough Striker. And then here, that's 3,500 actually. And that's plus 700. That'd only be 600 damage though. So that isn't enough. So I need to then also bring in the Gold Rush in order to get game. So we shuffle these 3 back. And then we swing, and then swing for 2,500 as well. So they are under 1,000. But we would have gained less attack points. We would have gained, like 500 less attack, I'm pretty sure. So it would have been 3,500 damage plus 600. So here comes another Maximum Overlord. But unfortunately, we do so kind of just lose the 7-Zone Magician anyway, huh? Thanks to the debuff. I do think I might have been able to play that a little bit better. As if I ended with a 3rd monster. Yeah, I think I could have won that. I think the Crafter Drone did not need to activate the effect. But unfortunately, that is game. And I am going to need to grab another tissue. So I'm going to be turning off the microphone for a moment. Okay, so they are declaring the attack that would win them the game. But then there is a connection error. And I believe that is the bug people have been talking about. Though I oddly have not noticed it until just now. That was the first time it has triggered. Does anybody know what actually causes it? Speaking of having a nose, I need to go snort some water. So I will be back in a couple of minutes. In the meantime, if any of you do know what actually causes the glitch to occur, definitely let me know. And we will be right back. And we are back and ready to keep on queuing. What it says is when someone surrenders, or if you have a lethal, as long as you wait, you'll get the win a few minutes later. Manager says it's like a spam email chain where you only get the bug if somebody has told you about it. That sounds correct. I think that is definitely how it works. Alright, and we are up first. We do have a boss monster here, but we definitely are not going to be summoning it. Let's just go for a safe set 3. Obviously, we are playing against an opposing Yuga, so there is a shot. They summon out a Mirror Innovator and immediately destroy us, but they are on maximum overload instead. So our biggest worry is a Torn of the Windweaver, which is much less threatening. They do have it though, so now it's a 1 in 3 shot on whether or not they will be able to find our Aim Eagle. But instead, they find the Avant Wolf, who is only worth a mere 100 points of damage. No need to activate our trap here. And with 2 monsters still on board, we should be in a decent spot. We draw a Mirror Innovator and a Barrage of Steel, providing us with plenty of cards to work our way through the opponent's board. In fact, we have drawn the perfect ratio of low and high level monsters. And thanks to the Mirror Innovator, we need not worry about running out of copies of Aim Eagle, as it is able to simply return them into the deck alongside a Bicorn for maximal chances to tribute summon again later. Let's swing in for as much as we can do. There is a chance that they have 1 maximum piece already in their hand and another stacked on top of the deck. But even with this, the odds of finding the 3rd piece on your 2nd turn are relatively low. And as you can see, they are starting off by activating the skill. So they presumably do not have the full maximum. We see another monster set face down. But that isn't good enough when faced against a Mirror Innovator. Especially not one backed up by Barrage of Steel, destroying their face down card. And we still aren't done yet. We also have access to a 2nd Mirror Innovator. Definitely enough now to finish the game, as we'll have 2 piercing boss monsters. And just in case even this is not enough, Avant Wolf enters the field, and we swing in, destroying Ancillor and claiming a victory. That is 1 win down. 2 more to go, and we'll be at gold 5. And I have an alarm going off, so I'll go deal with that while this is loading in. And we are back. Opponent starting off with Mystic Dealers makes me think this is probably going to be 7's Axel Road. Just the feeling I get. We draw into a Tough Striker, and we are definitely going to need access to this Ultimate Bond skill right now. Let's return the Tough Striker into the deck, as we're only able to bring in a single boss anyway. Not enough monsters in the graveyard to use our Bicorn just yet. So we tribute off both of these. And we activate the effect, returning just the aim eagle, allowing us to pierce over the set monster, even if it has a full 2500. Unfortunately, they are able to flip a recital, stopping us in our tracks. Paco says, what's your opinion on the Pokemon arrival in the show? It has definitely been a while since I watched it, but I do remember enjoying Gary as a character with their 10 gym badges. Alright, we see 7-star Magician, but unfortunately we are debuffed so low, and our only trap to save us is Sword and Shield. Wishing it were a recital right now. We do have a Sword and Shield to try turning this around, but that isn't going to do very much. Instead, we are going to be relying on this buffered slime, I think. Furthermore, Crafter Drone isn't even compatible with Aim Eagle. So, and on top of that, we can't even use the Bicorn. Both of these are trap cards, so I'm inclined to keep them. Activate skill, Ultimate Bond, revealing this, and removing a Crafter Drone, adding Aim Eagle to hand. Aim Eagle and Crafter Drone. Wait, no, Crafter Drone is not compatible with the Aim Eagle. That is definitely a bit of a throw. As now the Crafter Drone is stuck on our board in attack mode. But we'll do our best to make the most of the situation and swing into the Light Sorcerer of Sanctity. However, our opponent immediately drops the negate attack, and we are in even more trouble. Sanctity providing a little bit of a debuff onto, it really doesn't matter. And unfortunately, Madam Overlord is here. Our buffed slime is not going to be able to do much of anything. So let's head on to the next game. I mean, we will give it one more shot to reach gold 5. Otherwise, we might call it for the day. We have been streaming for a couple of hours at this point. And even if I were to do more channel-related things, I'd probably want to start just recording or scripting videos instead. So we'll go until we lose our next game. But there is a shot we do win the next 3 and make it up to gold 5 anyway. Opponent is starting off with a lot of sets, multiple spell trap cards, and 2 monsters. No Mirror Innovators for us, but Essel is a pretty good shot at finding a supplementary monster. Here comes a Tough Striker, and we'll pair it with an Almond Wolf as well. Enter the battle phase, and let's see what they're running. Bulgercorn makes me think it is going to be machines, so I swing in with the Essel, and then Tough Striker for a direct attack. We do know they have a face down, but I'm pretty sure it is actually a copy of Barrier or Thunderspark. As I'm relatively confident it didn't trigger when the Almond Wolf attacked, but it did trigger when the Tough Striker did, meaning it required them to have a monster in the grave. Alright, Ultimate Bond is activating. And they have a Tough Striker. But if they aren't using the Bulgercorn to summon a boss monster, we are kind of in an okay spot. But if they're able to get enough monsters into the graveyard to bring out a ton of bosses for cheap, then we are in trouble. Amigal is going to put the 3rd and 4th light machine in the grave. So, the Bicorn is going to be using its effect, and I think we are in a little bit of danger, especially since we just lost our Widespread Ruin to a barrage of steel. And Gold Rush. Are they able to bring in a 3rd monster? Fortunately, the answer is no, leaving us with at least some amount of resources heading into the next turn. We draw, and we do find 2 bosses. But unfortunately, not enough to really make good use of them. Unless we give up our barrage of steel. Which seems also like a questionable decision. Amigal is able to bring in the Gold Rush. And Gold Rush could use its effect. But without a 3rd monster on their board, it's not quite enough. So unfortunately, I think, yeah, we need to get rid of Barrage of Steel, bring in the other, and the Amigal doesn't work. Because our other monster is a Crafter Drone. So, we are stuck with a 2500. Wait, I could have used the Gold Rush to add an All-Out Wolf that I threw. I think I am getting a little bit distracted, or otherwise tired out from playing. But yeah, I could have used Gold Rush to ditch the Crafter Drone and grab another light monster, allowing me to clear out this Tough Striker. I'm sure leaving them with another boss monster will surely have no negative repercussions. Assault Cannon is going to provide a debuff, allowing their Tough Striker to clear out mine. They do lose a Mirror Innovator in the process, but if there's already one of them in their hand, that is simply more fuel for their own buff. I think the Digimon series were pretty fun as well. I definitely was not a Pokemon purist. I watched Pokemon, I watched Yu-Gi-Oh, and I watched Digimon. Oddly enough, I did end up not watching Dragon Ball though, which I feel is the other really popular show from that era. Alright, they set another card. And do we survive? The answer is no, leaving them with a 2500 had some repercussions. So we are going to be calling it a day here. However, I definitely got, I definitely want to send the raid somewhere, as we were raided by both Rax and Quantum. So I want to send it to somebody else. Let's see if there's anybody that I recognize first off. And if not, we will send it to, well, I mean, I recognize gamers. They just aren't a Rush player. But that is the best I can find. Or at least they aren't playing Rush right now. Either way, we are going to raid them on the Twitch side. So thank you everybody who tuned in today. And we will be back with our next attempt to reach King Games sometime next week. Everyone say hi to